Ramson from Chelsea Creative, and we're talking about brand. Right, Nicole, this is definitely your area. Tell me exactly what you do with Chelsea Creative and why you came up with the concept.
The concept of branding for small businesses. Well, I had actually worked in 3 different businesses, global businesses, and funnily enough, around the time that they were rebranding. So I'd obviously had a bit of, a lot of background in large-scale rebrands. But I decided, obviously, when I started Chelsea Creative, it was mainly as kind of a marketing service, and it has grown into more of branding for small businesses. So that's kind of how I came about starting.
And who are your average clients, would you say?
Average client would be a startup, normally young kind of entrepreneurs, girls that are mainly female-based. Women that are starting their own beauty business. Permanent makeup is now a really, really huge thing. And yeah, that would normally be my usual clientele. But I quite like working with businesses that are small startups that can use like a friendly female guide.
And what do you think the biggest challenge that these guys face when they're setting up their business really is?
I think just being completely overwhelmed. I had a girl last year that contacted me and she said that she wasn't enjoying her job. She wanted to go out and do her own thing. And she was a beautician. She did like the big lashes and everything that's really in at the moment. But she just had no idea where to start. So I think it is just having that guidance of, okay, these are the things, step 1, step 2, step 3, get your website sorted, get the clientele base. I think it's just having me help them through those steps and just almost having, I guess, like a friend to speak to and call up and ask questions.
That's brilliant. So what, in terms of sort of the fundamental parts of building your brand, what as startup entrepreneurs, what should people really be focusing on first?
Well, I think you need to work out exactly who your target market is. Once you've done that, you can work out what kind of vibe and feel your brand should be. And that's where obviously I come into. I then obviously have a chat over the phone, work out exactly who you're trying to target, and pull together a mood board of sorts to work out, like, is this kind of the positioning of what we want your brand to look like? So before a logo or any of the other deliverables that get sorted out, even website, it needs to start with a mood board. And they're fantastic because obviously they include your color schemes, which is a huge part of a business. Any kind of fonts, is it going to be new age, modern? Is it going to have a luxurious feel? Is it going to be sweet and spring-like and peachy colored, a bit like Chelsea Creative? Once we've got that nailed down, we then look at obviously creating your logo. And then from there, obviously, in terms of branding, it really depends on what your business needs, but it could be from obviously making sure that your website is completely consistent with your brand that you're trying to portray, having any media kits, price lists, letterhead, business cards, all looking very much the same. I think some people do get confused. They think that a brand is a logo, and that's just completely incorrect. A brand is obviously everything that encompasses what you do. And I think the key word to a really decent brand is consistency.
And so when you talk about sort of decent brands, are there any particular brands that you really admire or that you think just really nail it in terms of really having a very identifiable brand sort of throughout?
Absolutely. I think most people do the usual Apple, and I hate to say that because it's just TED Talk Central, but Apple do it so well. They can, absolutely simplicity is key for them. Their logo mark is something that everyone can see. It's like Nike, it's like anything else. The biggest brands in the world, consistency is completely key in what they do. So I think keeping that in mind when you are going forward into social media or any sort of marketing that you're doing, keeping everything within your brand guidelines is very important.
And so how much of an idea with those brand guidelines, how much should people have before they kind of come to you or to a designer like you? Do you find that people come with a whole spectrum of stuff? Do some people literally not know where to start? Do others come with like a full mood board?
It's completely different. Majority of people that come to me have an idea of what I do because they found me through Instagram and they like what I do. So I think the majority of people that come to me kind of say, I like really simplistic, modern looking logos and, fresh, girly, this, that, and the other. But if you have no idea and you've just not really, if you have absolutely no idea and you just know that you want to start a business and the marketing side of things is just like something that has to be done and you just want it taken care of, it's very easy for me to find out more about your business, work out who your target audience is, and create a brand from scratch. But I think the majority of people that come to me do have an idea of how they want their brand to look. And some people are really, really particular. And others, I can put a set of logos together and they say number 3 and then that's it. So it really, really varies.
And so I guess if someone's coming to you as a potential client, what advice would you give them to make the most of you? Like, if they're going to make the most of the experience working with you, are there any sort of tips you'd have for them? So perhaps how they can deliver the stuff to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think working with me, I much prefer, having a chat over the phone or meeting in person if that's possible, or having a Skype if they're overseas, and just getting to know the person and work out, who they are and what they're about and what their business is about. Obviously, social media is a big thing, so coming to me and using Chelsea Creative to help them create a really good-looking, Instagram feed, Facebook, Twitter, anything like that. And obviously, Chelsea Creative do a lot of print work, so to make sure that the brand is consistent, having everything done by the same designer is always, I think, fairly handy. Yeah.
And so I suppose for a lot of people watching, they're just starting out, they're kind of worrying about cutting costs and keeping stuff kind of as cheap as possible. What would you say are kind of the basics that, you want to kind of make sure that you've got? What was almost like a basic package for a business starting out?
We actually offer a few packages, Chelsea Creative. And I think the one, if you are very much starting out and you're not sure how business is going to go, is, making sure you have mood board, logo, brand guidelines, and putting together business cards. I think that's kind of number one. From there, I think having a decent website that corresponds with your logo and looks gorgeous. And then, you can kind of take that from anywhere.
And because I suppose once you've got things like your brand, your logo, if you are trying to keep things nice and cheap, you can do things like your social media yourself. It's having those key tools and then working out, I suppose, where you want to then focus your attention. So if you are worrying, okay, I've got X amount to spend, all right, the key points for me are I want to get my brand guidelines, my mood board, my logo arc. Now I've got those, okay, then I'll try and do some of these things on my own. Do you find a lot of customers will then come back to you once?
Absolutely. No, that happens all the time. So I think they kind of worry as well. If you're using a designer, you don't want some people up front to say, I'll go with the £3,000 package and get everything done, and then find out weeks down the track that it's just the synergy between the designer and the client isn't working. I've been very lucky that we've with a lot of my clients started small, and I've always had business in return from there on. I think finding a designer that works with you can be hard. There have been certain clients that I never resonated with, even when they told me the idea, I didn't quite understand. So I think it is one of those things where you need to find a designer that really speaks to you. Looking through their portfolio is really important, obviously, making sure you like what they do before you go ahead and get anything sorted for your business.
And obviously Instagram is a great way to check through that portfolio and see examples of other client work that they've done, and whether perhaps the designs that they're coming up with are sort of on brand with what you're thinking.
Absolutely. You definitely need to do your research, and Instagram is a platform at the moment, as I've spoken to Caroline, that is, allows you to do that, to go and check them out and to, see how they even respond with with their followers and what kind of engagement they have. You want to be able to follow suit and be able to look up to the person who is going to be teaching you how to do to work out your social media and everything.
Well, like you're saying, that the relationship's quite important. So actually you can get a feel for that person from the way that they do their social
Absolutely.
media, from an initial phone call, work out, is there someone that I think I can work on these projects with? Because it should be fun, and it's, the whole
and
point.
It should be both ways. I don't want to work with people who I don't really get along with. And I think I think as long as it's, a really good synergy, it's going to be a really nice, easy partnership.
Do you find most of your clients are female?
Yeah, I would say about 70%. There is obviously on Instagram, I do probably show more of like the nice, fun, girly things. But behind the scenes, there's, venture funding and this, that and the other that I do work for that I don't probably show as much on Instagram. But it's equally as important and as exciting a project.
And so we've mentioned brand guidelines quite a few times. What exactly are brand guidelines?
Brand guidelines are really important. If you're in a big business, it basically shows if you're advertising, say, in a newspaper, you want to make sure that the newspaper is portraying your brand correctly. So using fonts that are used within your brand, using your logo mark correctly, using your colors correctly. Even as something as simple as, say you have your logo, you want to make sure that there's, certain amount of space around it that's not just going to be shoved up with a bunch of other logos if you're sponsoring an event. So having those brand guidelines do just show how your brand should be portrayed.
And do you send them out then what's...
Absolutely. So once you've got the brand guidelines, and they can be really, really simple, and they can be pages and pages long. So if you're working with another web designer, for example, we pass those brand guidelines onto the web designer, and they can take them and take inspiration from like, okay, so we're going to be using this as a logo mark, these as the colors, a bit of shimmer here. So it's just, and obviously the typography.
And I completely get how important that is. So with my other company, with the dating awards, I can't count how many times people win an award and then just completely butcher my logo to put it into their advert, and I'm like, no.
It's very frustrating. But I think when you have it there on paper, it's not, you're not going to get a shock in 2 weeks' time when a newspaper comes and your logo is squashed up next to another one, because you've very, very clearly stated it.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because when I think about my logo is almost like my baby, it is the embodiment of my business. And so I guess in that way, you're working with like such a vital part of people's business.
Oh, absolutely.
It must be really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. I really love what I do. I'm just so happy that things have worked out how they're working out, I guess. Meeting people over Instagram and just meeting clients and being able to like forge a relationship with them is just so exciting. And not being able to pick and choose, but kind of being able to pick and choose who I want to work with and my hours and work with really fun, exciting businesses. And it's the chop and change as well. Like I quite like waking up in the morning and not knowing who's going to get in contact and what bit of work I'm going to do. So yeah, it's a really fun thing.
Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Not
You genuinely
problem.
are such a role model to anyone watching this, because you're a female entrepreneur in your own, in your own right, but you
Thanks so
also
much.
work with so many female entrepreneurs. I think it's brilliant. There'll be details on the site if anyone wants to get into contact with Nicole. Thank you so much.
Thank you.